Most of us grow up believing the same thing, that if we just follow the rules, if we work hard, if we save, if we invest, then one day life will finally feel easy, calm, safe, under control. We believe money is a simple equation. Earn more, spend less, save the difference. And yet, millions of people who follow financial advice still feel anxious about money, still feel behind, still feel trapped, still feel stressed. Not because they're lazy, not because they're careless, not because they're irresponsible, but because most financial advice was never designed for real life. It was designed for perfect humans. Humans who never get tired, never feel emotional, never make impulsive decisions, never feel pressure, never feel fear. In other words, it was designed for someone who doesn't exist. Let's talk about why. There's a promise we grow up hearing, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly. Study hard, get a good job, save money, avoid debt, invest early, and life will reward you. Not immediately, but eventually. So we follow the plan, we sacrifice, we delay happiness. We tell ourselves, just a little more patience, because one day life will finally slow down. But for many people, that day never comes. Instead, they wake up one morning and realize they're earning more than ever, but they feel more stressed than ever. More responsibilities, more pressure, more fear of losing everything. And a quiet question starts forming inside. Why does money still feel so hard? Here's something strange. Two people, same age, same education, same income. They both read the same finance books, watch the same YouTube videos, follow the same advice. 5 years later, one feels calm and secure. The other feels anxious and overwhelmed. Same information, completely different outcomes. Why? Because financial success is not about intelligence. It's about human behavior. And most financial advice doesn't understand human behavior at all. Most financial advice lives in a fantasy world, a world where you always feel motivated, you always make logical decisions, you always think long-term, you never feel tired, you never feel emotional. But real life doesn't work like that. Real life is exhausting. You wake up tired, you rush to work, you deal with pressure, deadlines, bosses, traffic, stress. By the time evening comes, your brain is empty. So when advice says, cook at home, track every expense, plan your finances carefully, it sounds simple. But at 9:30 p.m., after a long day, your brain doesn't care about logic. It wants comfort, and comfort usually wins. If knowledge alone created wealth, everyone watching finance videos would already be rich. Everyone reading self-help books would already be successful. But knowledge doesn't change behavior. Emotion does. Environment does. Identity does. Let's say someone tells you, stop ordering food, save that money. It makes perfect sense. But when you're tired, hungry, emotionally drained, your brain whispers, just this once. And that one time becomes a habit. This is where most advice fails, because it assumes humans behave rationally. They don't. They behave emotionally. People don't overspend because they're careless. They overspend because they're human, because spending temporarily removes pain. Stress to shopping, loneliness to food, boredom to scrolling, buying, anxiety to comfort spending. Money becomes emotional medicine. So when advice says, just control your spending, what it's really saying is just stop feeling, which is impossible. Today, we don't compare ourselves to our neighbors. We compare ourselves to the internet. Perfect homes, perfect vacations, perfect bodies, perfect lifestyles. And every scroll whispers, you are behind. So people spend, not to enjoy, but to catch up, to feel normal. To feel normal. This is one of the biggest invisible drains on modern finances. Most advice depends on motivation, but motivation is unreliable. Some days you feel disciplined. Some days you feel empty. Real life is inconsistent, but advice expects perfect consistency. That gap is where failure happens. This is the deepest issue. People behave based on identity. If someone believes, "I'm bad with money," their brain will always prove it true. They will sabotage savings, overspend, make emotional decisions, not intentionally, but subconsciously, because the brain always returns to what feels familiar, even if familiar means struggle. Budgeting sounds smart. Track everything, control spending, follow limits. But most people quit budgeting, not because they're lazy, because budgeting feels like punishment. Every purchase feels like guilt. So eventually, they rebel. They overspend, then feel shame, then quit. Cycle repeats. Stress to spending, to guilt, to restriction, to burnout, to more spending. And advice only focuses on striction, never on stress, never on emotion, never on psychology. There was a man who waited years for a promotion. When it finally came, his salary doubled. He felt powerful. For 3 months. Then his lifestyle expanded. Better car, better phone, more eating out. 6 months later, he felt just as stressed. Same anxiety, higher costs. This happens everywhere. Convenience costs money. Delivery costs money. Comfort costs money. Speed costs money. Modern life sells comfort, and comfort quietly drains wealth. After exhausting days, people don't want discipline. They want distraction. So they scroll, shop, consume, and consumption becomes emotional anesthesia. We tell ourselves, "I deserve this," and sometimes we do. But when "I deserve this" becomes daily, financial destruction follows. FOMO is powerful. Everyone seems ahead. Everyone seems richer. Everyone seems happier. So people rush. They buy. They upgrade. They stretch finances just to feel included. Simple life means less spending, but simple life feels like falling behind. So people choose complexity, and complexity is expensive. Usually, after debt, burnout, stress, health problems, pain creates awareness, but it doesn't have to.